The Destination Vermont experience within day trip distance of the cities? Well, that's what Mount Snow aims to offer. Just north of the Massachusetts border, Mount Snow is the furthest south major Vermont ski area and the closest decently sized resort to places like New York City and Boston. The resort aims to provide an appealing package within a reasonable driving distance from those in other nearby metropolitan areas. And while it isn't perfect at everything, this mountain will do the trick for many with reliable snowmaking, a decent footprint, and a unique dedicated terrain park mountain face. In this video, we'll go through Mount Snow's overall mountain experience, and then we'll go through how the resort stacks up in our overall rankings. Before we jump in, you can check out written reviews of Mount Snow and over 50 other destination ski resorts on our website, peakrankings.com. Be sure to like and subscribe to help us grow, and be sure to hit the bell so you don't miss any of our video content. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, where you can follow along as we travel around the peaks this winter.
Nice.
Mount Snow's snow quality is by no means terrible for the East Coast, but it doesn't compare to the resorts further north in Vermont. While Mount Snow typically sees milder temperatures than its more remote competitors, it also sees less accumulation each season. In addition, given Vermont's heavily variable weather conditions, any natural powder the mountain receives doesn't tend to last long. But the middling snow totals don't tell the whole story. Mount Snow employs extensive snowmaking to ensure a resilient season, having significantly overhauled their snowmaking operations in recent years. More than 80% of terrain now sees quality snowmaking coverage, and it's now common to see nice conditions at the resort only a few days after an ice storm. The resort also boasts strong grooming operations. These factors mean the resort is often able to open key terrain faster than other Vermont resorts, making for a more dependable vacation. Mount Snow is decently sized and substantially bigger than all resorts south of it. The footprint is by no means the most interesting out there, but there's still quite a varied selection of terrain. The resort can essentially be broken into 4 distinct zones. These include the main face, which is where the majority of the resort's trails are, Sunbrook, which is a more isolated intermediate pod, North Face, which is for advanced and expert terrain, and Corinthia, which focuses entirely on terrain parks. Especially of note are the resort's mogul terrain and freestyle features, which are unique for a Vermont mountain this far south. Terrain for each ability level is almost completely concentrated in its own mountain area, keeping skier traffic of different abilities from unnecessarily mixing. That being said, Mount Snow's vertical drop is a modest 1,700 feet, and none of its trails are particularly long. It might look friendlier than some of its central and northern Vermont competitors, but Mount Snow isn't a particularly great option for beginners. Only a few green runs go from summit to base, and they often become congested. The resort does have a beginner-centric area on the main face called Sundance, which provides isolation from the harder slopes and offers service from 2 dedicated lifts, although one of these is on track to be replaced with a high-speed lift next season, which is going to extend to more intermediate terrain and will likely change the demographic in the area. On the other side of the main face, there's also a bunny hill for true first-timers. Mount Snow makes a lot more sense for intermediate visitors, which are arguably the resort's key demographic. More than half the resort's terrain is intermediate rated, with the main face and Sunbrook areas where most guests will spend the majority of their time being almost entirely blues. These trails receive consistent grooming, making for enjoyable cruising. On some of these trails, the resort will leave some bumps next to a groomed area, which is a nice benefit for those learning moguls. There are some intermediate level woods, but being southern Vermont, they're pretty much always thin cover and have obstacles that other blue runs do not. For those looking for a challenge, Mount Snow's North Face is the place to be. This area almost exclusively hosts black runs, and it offers a solid mix of steep groomers, moguls, and woods. Mount Snow also offers Bear Trap, a bump run in the Sunbrook area serviced by an exclusive chairlift that blasts music all day. A small number of ungroomed blacks are also scattered around the resort's main face. While some Vermont resorts offer more challenging expert runs, you won't find other mountains this far south with the same amount of mogul terrain. The Corinthia area is perhaps the most unique part of Mount Snow, and it consists exclusively of freestyle terrain, with 100 acres of features for all freestyle ability levels. Few other resorts on the East Coast have this much dedicated terrain park space. That being said, this area can take a bit of time to get built out. On the mid-January day of this recording, the resort was a bit behind schedule, having installed some smaller and medium parks, but still working on building large jumps and the half-pipe. Among Vermont resorts, Mount Snow has one of the most intuitive physical layouts. The overwhelming majority of Mount Snow's terrain is directly accessible from the main summit area, and visitors can get back to the base from the inset, North Face, and Sunbrook areas with only one lift ride. While there are two base areas, it's pretty easy to get down to the right place at the end of the day. However, signage has degraded over the years, with faded trail markings and trail maps present in certain areas. In some places, such as this almost entirely unmarked yard sale trail, it's too easy for less experienced guests to end up on a run that's too hard. Facilities aren't bad at Mount Snow, with plenty of capacity at both the main and Corinthia bases. The Corinthia base is just one lodge, while the main base is a multi-building complex. A summit lodge lets visitors go in for a break or grab a meal without having to go all the way back to the base area. For the 2021-22 season, proof of vaccination is required for indoor dining, and there's often a line to get into the main building, although typically it moves pretty quickly. You can make reservations for indoor dining, but there's still some indoor seating that doesn't require reservations. On-site food is really expensive for the quality. At Mount Snow, visitors will find a mix of high-speed and slow fixed-grip lifts. The front-facing main and Corinthia areas enjoy service from high-speed chairs, including the resort's signature Bluebird Express 6-pack bubble chair, which provides welcome isolation from the elements on cold and stormy days. However, the North Face and Sunbrook areas are only served by slow fixed-grip lifts. The especially sluggish Sunbrook quad ride takes nearly 9 minutes, which is a lot for a lift that only services intermediate terrain. Thankfully, you can take the equally slow but much shorter bear trap lift to escape and get back to the front side. The Sunbrook lift won't be a problem for long, however, as it's finally slated to get a high-speed replacement for the 2022-23 season. Given its size and proximity to so many major metropolitan areas, you might expect Mount Snow to be a madhouse during peak times. And while you'd be right, Mount Snow's lift logistics decently mitigate the effects of crowding in some areas. Every base or junction area offers at least 2 lift options, so there aren't any choke points centered around one specific lift. The main face base area offers 3 high-speed lifts, 2 of which go directly to the summit, along with 2 helper fixed-grip lifts that get you to a reasonable spot on the mountain and rarely have any lines. The mountain can get really crowded on weekends and holidays, but this setup works about as well as it can to get as many guests up the mountain as quickly as possible. A new high-speed lift is on track to be installed for the 2022-23 season to replace Tumbleweed and Sundance, which will bring high-speed service to that immediate pod for the first time and should further help in moving guests up the mountain. The bubble chair often draws significantly more crowds than other lifts starting at the same place, which can result in somewhat shorter lines than you might expect for the other routes up the mountain. The Grand Summit Express Quad essentially follows the same lift line as the bubble chair, and if you're okay with a little bit of cold and wind on your chairlift ride, you can save several minutes in line and get in a lot more turns. However, some areas could really use a capacity upgrade. The 2 triple lifts servicing the popular North Face area struggle to handle the influx of visitors to the resort's only true advanced area. Although the Corinthia Terrain Park area sees service from both a high-speed quad and a helper fixed-grip double, they're not enough on busy days, and crowds can build up to unacceptable levels. If you want to hit these areas on a peak day, go early in the morning before the main face crowds have had their chance to make their way over. With so much lift infrastructure in a modest footprint, Mount Snow can't boast the same landscapes or isolation that you'll find at some resorts further north. There's not much in the way of natural beauty at the very built-up summit, but trails do provide solid views of surrounding mountaintops and a nearby reservoir. The main face and Corinthia areas won't get any hearts racing, but the Sunbrook and North Face areas feel reasonably secluded and picturesque. One major change for the 2021-22 season revolves around parking. Mount Snow has instituted a new tiered paid parking program, with approximately half of its parking now commanding a premium during peak times. The furthest away lots are the free ones, but this results in free parking being a limited commodity on weekends and holidays. If you don't want to pay to park, get to the mountain early. So Mount Snow delivers a lot for a southern Vermont resort, including reasonable terrain variety and quality snowmaking. While prices at the ticket window aren't cheap, the resort offers significant discounts on tickets if you buy them ahead of time. Going this route can get you a sweet value for the resort's advanced terrain and freestyle features. But the resort can get very crowded on peak days, and many resorts further north offer more diverse terrain and better accumulation. For those in the area, choosing between Mount Snow and those other resorts may come down to nothing more than how long the drive takes. Now let's go through how Mount Snow stacks up in our overall resort rankings, which are determined by the following 10 category mountain score. Mount Snow sees weaker accumulation than its more northern competitors, but still gets its fair share of natural snow and gets a 5 for snow. Despite variable weather patterns, Mount Snow's snowmaking arm is strong and the resort gets a 6 for resiliency. Mount Snow is just over 600 acres, large for southern Vermont, and gets a 4 for size. Mount Snow has terrain that caters to a solid variety of abilities, although neighboring runs do feel pretty similar, and the resort gets a 4 for terrain diversity. Mount Snow is by no means the craziest mountain in Vermont, but it offers some impressive steeps for the location and gets a 5 for challenge. Mount Snow has a state-of-the-art lift fleet on its main face, but lifts in some key areas are old and slow, and the resort gets a 5 for lifts. Mount Snow gets absolutely swamped with crowds during peak times, but it offers an effective lift fleet on its main face and gets a 5 for crowd flow. Lodges are large and well placed, and the resort gets a 7 for facilities. Signage needs work in some places, but the mountain is still very intuitive to get around, and the resort gets a 7 for navigation. And finally, mountain aesthetic. Mount Snow certainly feels built up and crowded, but there are some solidly pleasant resort areas, and the resort gets a 4 in this category. These categories add up to an overall mountain score of 52, placing Mount Snow 6th in Vermont, and tying it for 54th overall as of February 2022. However, expect these rankings to shift in the coming weeks as we work to add more peaks to the tally. You should consider Mount Snow if you're attracted by its convenient location, intuitive layout, and resiliency in snowmaking operations, but you should skip it if you're looking to avoid the crowds during peak times, or if you'd prefer the more unique terrain and the higher natural snowfall up further north. For more on Mount Snow and more than 50 other North American ski resort destinations, check out peakrankings.com.